Hi! Hello, hello! Oh my gosh, I'm home. I'm home, and you're here, and it's Wednesday. What's going on? Okay, good. Let's see. Sound is good. Whoa, everything is happening very fast. I took a nap. Can you tell? I took a nap, and pardon me, I just have to make sure everything's happening. Woo! Okay. It looks like things are fine. Okay, so, hello everybody. I'm home and I'm just getting situated. I have so much to share with you. And it's a good thing that I got so much ready, prior to, like an hour ago, because, I took a nap and I was just beat, and the trip to Budapest was great. When we were leaving, and by the way, was it fun with my mom or what? That was so much fun. It was so cool. It was really, I just asked you, was that fun or what? And now I'm saying it was fun. I think you agree that it was fun. We really are, we're pretty good together, me and Mary Ann. And so that was just a blast, I thought. I think you all had fun too. And, you know what? I gotta do something here. I'm seeing a couple subscribers or maybe, hang on. Did I do that? Did I do the thing? I think I did the thing. I think I did a thing where if you subscribe, a little thing pops up. But maybe not. Okay, well, we'll see. I'll make sure of that later because I don't want anything weird to happen. Okay, I'll check it later. Anyway, I'm going to get to all of that in just a second, but I do want to say that it was wonderful going to Budapest. It was fantastic to see my family. My family's great. And I was saying to Eric, and by the way, if you missed it, well, first of all, welcome to Quilt Nerd. If you're new here, hang on. Just hang on. Buckle up your quilt seatbelt and just sit back. Or maybe do what you were doing, but just, keep the show on and check in every once in a while. We want to know you're here, and we want to know that you're never going to leave because, our numbers are growing, and we want to make sure that our attendance is robust here at Quilt Church. Anyway, I went to Budapest to meet up with family members and for just a few days, and it was very cool. And I was saying to Eric, I've had love in my life. I've had great, relationships in my life, but none of the loves of my life, compare to Eric, right? In so many ways. But no one got along with my family as well as he does. And it's not even about like getting along. It's just a hand and a glove with that guy. I don't know. He loves my family. My family loves him. It's just like, oh yeah, hey, I'm glad you finally made it. That kind of vibe. So that feels so good. He gets quiet, around a new group of people. My family isn't new, but we've never really spent time like this together, on this sort of family trip. But it's just great. He's great. The Fonses are a lot, we're a lot. There's a lot of pew, 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 and, oh, but how about this? Oh, you saw me and my mom, it's like, and so the men around here, have to kind of keep up with that, but they love it. Okay, so let me say hi to everybody. And like I said, if you're new here, so Wednesday night, this is a special thing because I didn't stream last night, and thank you for understanding. I knew you would, but usually it's a Tuesday, 11 a.m. Central show. Being consistent, it's very important to me. It's important to you. But it was the last night with the fam, and I thought maybe it'd be okay. I kept the stream on the schedule because I was like, sometimes folks go back to their hotel and you're kind of tired and you're good, but it wasn't quite the vibe, and I actually didn't feel terribly well either. So we're catching up. I'm not just gonna leave you hanging with no stream. No broadcast, no video magazine. No. So it's Wednesday night for me, and I'm going to tell you what the show's all about as soon as I say hello to the fellow nerds in the room. And who's here? Everybody's here. Alistrina V, Sue, Pam Priest. Hi. Thank you so much for coming, my good people. GPF Mom, I'm so glad you're back. Excellent. Oh, and you get Sue gifted a subscription to GPF Mom. That is awesome. Yeah, you can subscribe to this channel. It's $4.99. A pittance, really. And you support the work that I do, getting this stuff together for you. I bought a camera on the trip because I needed a camera that would work. So, your money is going toward good things. That putting money back into the show. Let me think. Oh, and you don't have to watch ads because Amazon will play ads on Twitch. Amazon owns Twitch, so they can do whatever they want. But if you're an Amazon Prime member, you get a Twitch subscription every single month for free, just one. So you can use it on this show. You have to do it every month. You have to, resubscribe every month. But yeah, it's great. Works. Myra's here. Excellent. Hello. A wave. I like that. Carol Hempel's here. Yes. It is such fun. Marianne, thank you for extending your subscription through December. I'm really glad you did that. And I'm going to try to get like a little, I made this little star thing pop up. I don't know when someone subscribed and all this stuff. But you're my star and you're popping up. Okay, let's see. Fiandor. Yes. So Natalie, yes. Oh, and Natalie, you're on vacation. Oh, wow. Okay. Let's all take a moment. Let's just take a moment. Natalie stopped by Fabric World in Georgia and bought around 40 yards of quilting cotton. We're not going to ask her if she's like, are you kidding? We're not going to even ask her. She's probably not. And she's ready for some entertainment. Natalie, you are just entertained. It's going to be like a Vincent Minnelli production entertainment tonight. It's going to be like Gigi or Oklahoma up in here. That's how entertaining. I hope so. Yeah, there's a lot. Okay. Fabric High. Oh God. Yeah. I need to do some fabric shopping. Word and Bird Nerd. Excellent. We've got Quilting Nancy. Excellent. Michelle Van Scrappy. Hello. Excellent. Everyone is excellent. I'm just doing a variation in my greetings. Just so Viv. Thank you for subscribing with Prime. Excellent for 2 months. Just so Viv, I had a great time. It was great. And you know what? If you couldn't catch the live with me and my mom, it's totally on the Twitch channel. And I believe, I uploaded it to YouTube twice by mistake. Yeah, it was fun, Myra, right? Let's see. I just love this show, Sue. I just love making it. And so it's like a pleasure to catch up. It doesn't even feel like, it's not even a question, that I would like make up the stream. Hey, Wheelless Studios. Welcome to the chat. Everyone please welcome Wheelless Studios in your own way, even if it's just mentally, psychically, whatever. I don't want to, make you do anything you don't want to do, but I think you probably all want to say hello to somebody who's new in the chat, which is awesome. Wheelless Studios, I'm so glad that you came by. And you're just here for a bit, and that's all good. Holmes is here. You're in good company whenever Holmes is around. And yeah, catching a live is the best. I watch shows that are live streamed on YouTube and Twitch too. And a lot of times I can't make the live, I can't make it. So I watch the replay. And Flory. Okay, Flory. How am I going to remember Flory? Like Floriani thread, maybe. Yes, I know, 40 yards, right? Hey, Vicky, 4,800. Yes. Alistrina, welcome. Yes. Okay, excellent. So, here's the deal on the show. The deal on the show is that we are curious together. We're just people who want to know things about the stuff that we love. And the stuff that we love is often made with fabric, but it's also made with paint, and it's made with light. Yes. It's made with lace sometimes. I mean, it has lace incorporated into it. The stuff that we like, we like quilts, and quilts are made from a lot of different kinds of things. And people who don't know much about quilts might be they might be subscribed to hear that. They might be surprised to hear that. But if you're curious about quilts, you know that under every, let's see, what's a good metaphor? If you lift up a corner, of a quilt, you'll find lots of great stuff there. I don't think that's so good. Remember, I just woke up from a nap not very long ago. But around every corner, when you're looking at quilts in culture and quilts in history, you find remarkable things. You find stories about the people who made the quilt that you might be looking at, or the people who owned the quilt, the people who were alive at the time the quilt was made. All of these angles to every single quilt or quilt adjacent object. All of these angles are very interesting. And if you're curious about the world, and if you're curious about history, if you're curious about people and art, and women, quilting is a gendered kind of thing. And I don't know if that's actually... Is it right to say it's gendered? You don't have to answer that. I'm just thinking about that, because when I say quilts are gendered, you know what I mean, and I know what I mean. But I think there's a better way. There's just a better way to say it. I think that's kind of a sloppy or unrefined way to say quilts are usually made by women, historically have been made by women. Let's not get into that just yet. But women's history, certainly, quilts are very much, present right along the way, and have served lots of purposes for women over time. Places for expression, places for creativity, for protest, and so there's all this stuff. There's all this stuff connected to the stuff that we love, and most of us here, not all of us, but most of us here make quilts too. And it reminds me of something. I have so much to tell you. Okay, we need to look sometime at the Robert and Helen Cargo collection. It's a gal thing. Yeah, Marianne, I think 99% of quilters, for all time, all quilters are female. It just is. But we love our guys. We love our guys, and our guys love us. But Robert and Helen Cargo were collectors. They're passed now. And I spoke to someone in their family. She was quite private, so I don't want to say much more than that. But she told me that her dad... God. Okay. Well, but I'm not saying anything else about... Okay, anyway. Too late now. So this person, she said that Robert Cargo, she wasn't like weird. It's fine. It's not like that. It's just, whatever. I'm making it worse. Anyway, the point is that Robert Cargo learned to make quilts. He was this collector, right? This huge collector. And he learned how to make quilts as well, because he was collecting quilts. The Cargo collection is famous for the quilts that they had from the American South, especially Alabama, where they were from, I believe. Lots of Birmingham, yeah. Anyway, so I thought that was so awesome that this person who was a collector, collecting quilts, especially if you're, really rich, not saying that he was, or, but any collector who's like, wealthy and collecting like tons of the collection is enormous. You sort of think like, well, what are the ethics of collecting, even museums, like you take an object out of its natural habitat. Is that saving it, or is it stealing? There's just a lot of ethics in collecting and stuff that I need to know much more about. I need to think much more about all that. But what I thought was really cool is that a person who's collecting a thing, would learn to make the thing. that they're collecting in order to better understand it and understand, the people who made the thing that he was collecting. I just thought that was really cool. And I mention it terribly, just if I was writing this, I would rewrite that portion. I think I mention it because if you're a quilt maker, when you're curious about quilts, it adds this other dimension to it. It adds this like layer of curiosity, of knowledge, because you know how you would make a thing, but how would this other person, in 1890 have made a thing, or how does this remarkable quilt, go together with materials that you would have never used. It's pretty cool. So we make quilts. We like them. That's it. That's it. So we just nerd out together. Okay. That's what's up. I want to say Quilt Tops by Ivana. Thank you so much for subscribing. I really appreciate it. You support the work of the quilt nerd and in front of you, and she needs support. And you just become part of this pretty awesome community. And we're pretty awesome. Okay. So here's what happens. What happens is we start with a quilt. We start with one to sort of just open the show. Hey, Molly Squared. Yes. Molly Squared is here. There's a lot to talk about. I keep saying it, so let's get into it. So there's a quilt on my desktop, okay? And now I make myself small. I'm small. And I start here. I pick something for you all to do the jump off, right? The jump off into the show. We talk about what this is, and I have a plan for you. I have a bunch of things, but part of the fun of this is that when you're curious about something, sometimes you learn stuff, and so you don't know what else you might learn. We have a general plan. I have a general sketch of content for you, but if we deviate from that and have to look up something else, or we decide to spend more time on a certain thing because we're all just like, really into what we're looking at, then we will. And there is no end to the content out there about quilts. Even like, there's stuff about quilts, and then there's stuff that's sort of tangentially about quilts, or sort of. So we just have a lot of things to talk about, and we will for years. I mean, we're all going to be like, I don't know, wheeling ourselves around, talking about quilts, because there's just so much. Because it's not just about pretty blankets. If it was about pretty blankets, I wouldn't be here. It's about so much more than that. And I hate researching all this stuff on my own, so I thought I would start a show where, you could just do it with me. So the quilt that you're looking at is Hungarian. Because my mom was on the show last time. Isn't this wonderful? The mom was on the show on Sunday, and, it's really exciting. And we just had to keep things simple because we were doing things on the fly. So I didn't go over any Hungarian quilts. But of course, I've been gathering information about them, and I'm going to tell you what I've learned. So this is a detail shot. Let me pull up my little notes here. I have more of these. I have more pictures of this wonderful stuff for you, but let's talk about this one first. So the first thing, when I was looking at Hungarian quilts before I left, and it's lace. Isn't that great? And apparently there's a fabric. Hungarian quilts are a thing. Okay, they are a thing. Quilts in pretty much every culture are a thing, but of course they change. The style changes, the technique changes, all that. But there's a blue and white fabric that is traditional. Hey, Nose to Quilts. Hi. So glad you're here. It's a traditional fabric to Hungary, and I'm going to read you some information about it. I gotta open the window because it's hot. It's not hot, but I get hot. So, hey. If you're new here, I told folks last week, I mean, this is about as basic as Twitch gets. This is like the GeoCities version of what this show will one day be. I might wear costumes one day. I don't know. Some people do it on their Twitch channel. I'm not going to do that. The Hungarian blue and white fabric is pretty fascinating. And here is what I'm going to tell you about it. Okay, hang on. So on the menu tonight, let me just tell you, we're going to talk about Hungarian quilts. We're going to talk about science quilts. Oh, there's so much. And hopefully we will get through it. Okay, so this is a detail shot of this person's work. It's from an article in the Houston Chronicle, okay? The Houston Chronicle from November 2012, okay? And this is a detail shot of a quilt called Heritage by Maria Kovalik, okay? Maria Kovalik. So I'm going to pull up this screen here, which has a lot more of these quilts to show you. Images of these quilts. And we'll just go through them. And I'll read to you about this fabric that is traditional to Hungary, okay? So let me do this. And then I've got a couple more Hungarian tidbits for you. Okay. All right. View. Aha, look at this. Isn't this great? All right. All right, so here's what it says, okay? Here's what this article says about this exhibit in 2012, and we will I'll scroll through here as I read. All right, I feel kind of rusty, y'all. All right. Exhausted. So this is from the Houston Chronicle, okay? In 2012, exhausted from 24 hours on a plane, curator Anna Dolani. I apologize in advance. The Hungarian language is very interesting. It's very beautiful. I don't know how to pronounce, the accents. It will be terrible. So I apologize. And Anna Dolani, nevertheless, beams with pride as she points out the exquisite artistry of the Hungarian quilts on display at Houston's International Quilt Festival. Each quilt is an ingenious composition of Hungarian blue-dyed fabrics and folk art motifs. One reflects the variety of snowflakes' shapes, another the tiles on an old stove. Several quilts were done by a group, each block designed by an individual. Dolani says the 16-piece exhibit represents the best work of the Hungarian. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I have thoughts about the language. It's really interesting. Sorry, I looked at the chat. So the 16-piece exhibit represents the best work of the Hungarian Patchwork Guild, a group she co-founded to introduce quilting to her country. While patchwork quilting was uncommon in Hungary before the guild was founded in 1989, the blue dye process dates back to the 1770s. You see? Pause. If you're new here, we're learning about Hungary. We're learning about Hungary through a quilt. It happens every time. You pick up a quilt, you learn something new. If you're looking, if you're watching, and if you have some nerds around you to show you the way, right? So interesting. The dyeing is a complex process. Printing blocks are used to apply starch paste designs on white cotton. This is something, shibori, right? I'm thinking about shibori, sashiko work in Japan. I mean, the indigo resist dye thing is a thing in lots of parts of the country. It's interesting to see the differences, in the different parts of the world. In different countries. Okay, the fabric is immersed for hours in an indigo bath until it's the desired shade of blue. Then it's rinsed in sulfuric acid and water, which washes out the excess dye and reveals the white patterns. Originally used by the wealthy, the blue printed materials later were used in clothing for the middle class. So I was reading more about this too, and I've got a bit more for you. It was the fanciest of the fancy. But then it changed. Today, Hungarian blue-dyed textiles are made by only seven families in the country, and the fabrics are mostly used for quilting. Blam. Isn't this great? Ooh, I love this one. Ooh, so cool, right? Okay, that's what I thought. So, okay. Oh man, I printed this out, and it printed on a weird piece of paper. Hang on one second. I just gotta get this. Aha. Lovely, lovely. Okay. Yeah, so I think what you're all saying in the chat while I pull this up is it's gorgeous. It is gorgeous. I think this is fine now. Yeah, okay. Interesting. So there's a few more of these. Hang on. So now I'm going to give you a couple bits, a bit more about Hungary, this Hungarian fabric and these quilts. Okay, so there is, there's more here. There's a paper that was written for the Textile Society of America Symposium by Kristalina Hugmanek in 2020. Called Freedom Quilt, Collective Patchwork in Post-Communist Hungary. Okay, so it's fabulous, and I'm going to read you a little bit of it here and there and show you a few more images. And I apologize, I'm not looking at the chat so much, but there's a lot going on. I have to, yeah. I want to keep things moving because I have to do a lot of different window management here. So I apologize, but I will catch up. So, I just love this. This was almost the desktop picture today. But that center was just so wonderful. I didn't want to cover it up at all. This person, Kristalina Hugmanek, School of the Art Institute of Chicago, my alma mater for my graduate degree. She did this wonderful project, and the paper talks about it. But I want to read this little bit from sort of the introduction of this. So she sought to understand, in her project, among other things, she says, I sought to understand how the country's history, Hungary's history of alternating political regimes, very complicated over there, and border changes affected the material's production. This particular material, which is called, I don't know that the article mentioned what it's called. It is called, hang on now. Hang on. It's not Gior, hang on. Yeah, Kekfesto. It's Kekfesto. Let me put the spelling of it in the chat. Kekfesto. I'm sure it sounds much more beautiful than that when someone who is a native speaker is saying it. That's what that is. Okay. Yeah, the colors are absolutely gorgeous, right? Okay, that's the last picture there. All right. So she said, I sought to understand how the country's history of alternating political regimes and border changes affected the material's production and role in the broader economy. She focused on two periods of change within textile production, the Industrial Revolution of the early 19th century as it relates to imperialism, and the 1949 Soviet-led industrialization as it relates to nationalism. Okay, so she's really, I mean, it's a very in-depth, very, she was on a Fulbright, I think, to go there and work on all this. So I'm going to show you some images from her paper because she has really great images in here. Let me get that together for you. Okay. Yeah, the colors are on these quilts are just wonderful, and it makes sense that it was a quilt market, because these quilts are just absolutely stunning. And Quilt Festival, the Quilts Inc., who runs all of that, they do a pretty good job with their exhibits, don't you think? I mean, I don't know who does that. I used to know who is in charge of all that. Penny something, It's on the hard drive in there somewhere. And they're, you gotta hand it to them. It's pretty good stuff. Okay, so here are images from this paper. Okay, I'm gonna do this right here. Okay, great. Whoops. View. Okay. So this is a swatch book, okay, of this fabric from a long time ago, from an archive. So let's see what she says. Okay, let me check in. All right, let me check in on everybody. Yeah, what quilter doesn't like blue? Exactly. So the language, the Hungarian language, what I was hearing when I was there, or what I was thinking was, it's really almost like Russian. I mean, it's like on the seam. It feels like linguistically, like I know what I'm talking about, between, a Cyrillic alphabet generated language and a Germanic generated, letter generated. It's just the words are very long, and there's lots of accents that sort of almost want to change the letters into something else. Do you know what I mean? Like, it felt like this is a place where language is really, shifting. Like, it was sort of going in one direction and another. It was beautiful. It was really beautiful. I don't take pictures and post to social media. My sister is so good at it. Follow my sister. Our Fonzie. Brilliant. Rebecca. I mean, if you want to see our trip to Hungary or Budapest, look at my sister's Instagram. It's fabulous. So yeah, the blue and white. I know, the blue and white snail trail. The snail trail was great. Okay. That's my younger sister's Instagram. Okay. So this, so she talks a lot about, through studio visits with 3 of the 6 remaining Hungarian Kekfesto producers, okay, it became clear the 400-year-old tradition experienced fluctuating levels of creative freedom and oppression imposed by different governments, So, and I mean, Hungarian political history, yeah, I mean, it's complicated. Before the Soviets came in, they were independent, right? But then World War II happened, and the Soviets sort of kept them from being absorbed, by Germany, right? Like it was the Soviets sort of took over after World War II, something like that in there. But then in the 80s. Oh, this is where I just read. And someone else Googles, and I just save myself from saying something absolutely outrageous. But it is, the borders have shifted a lot in Hungary, and things have changed. So this fabric that they make has really, has changed, depending on who was in charge and who was making it, changed and all of that. So this person, her project involved doing this project called the Freedom Quilt Project, and she says, yeah, okay, here we go. Okay, this is what she was after. This picture that you're seeing, this is kind of giving you an idea of what's going on here. So she began this project with a concerted intention to highlight the exceptional talent of artists living in Hungary, while using a textile as a tool to reflect collective memory. To contextualize the effort, she began with an overview of events there in 1989. The Berlin Wall fell, the Cold War ended, the Soviet Union collapsed, and its satellite states, one of which was Hungary, regained independence. Oh, I wasn't wrong. As a result of the political changes, many countries in the Eastern European bloc experienced a lifted ban on social gatherings that were critical of the political climate. And in Hungary, the Hungarian Patchwork Guild, okay, because we just saw the show, that's the guild that made those quilts. I mean, the guild was quoted in that article with the Houston Chronicle was the Hungarian Patchwork Guild, right? That we learned just now that when we read that article, when we looked at those quilts, that quilting was not really a thing before, she was saying 1989, the Hungarian Patchwork Guild was created in 1989. Okay, so here we're reading that, yes, it's true. The Hungarian Patchwork Guild was formed through a government-issued grant after the Soviets left and they got their independence in Hungary in the 80s. Wow. So 30 years later in 2019, and with a U.S. State Department grant designated for creative projects celebrating the 30th anniversary of Hungarian liberation, this woman, Kristalina Humanik, designed and facilitated a framework of public engagement events. Okay? And the intention is to investigate a present-day relationship to democracy and freedom in Hungary's developing capitalist economic system by opening space for uncensored conversation around individual lived experience and responses to the current political climate. That's right. So amazing, right? And this, yes, a Fulbright. Yeah, the project developed out of 9 months of research while this woman was on a Fulbright. Wouldn't that be amazing? You're like, well, I'm studying quilts in Hungary, working on a project. I have a Fulbright. I don't think she probably says it like that. Hopefully people who are on a Fulbright are low-key about it, because it's just one of those things. If you ever have a Fulbright grant, it's like you just sort of, I don't know if you feel this way, but it's like, wow, am I wasting my life? Am I really contributing to humanity? Could I get a Fulbright scholarship to do something, really remarkable? I haven't yet, I don't know. It's probably me with my imposter syndrome, but there it is. So this is a close-up here or a detail shot of some of the blocks here. And yeah, I'd brag about a Fulbright. I mean, I'd full brag about a Fulbright. Yes, okay, good. Yes, exactly. Oh, Wheel is good. You got on the Discord. Excellent. Quilts are history books. Okay, so a couple more images here. So I just loved reading it. Look at this. This is the Hungarian Patchwork Guild. Thank you for staying with me as I arrange this content. I mean, oh my goodness, there's so much to talk about in terms of Hungarian, history that it's like, woo, we got to make sure we're getting the quilts, we're getting the storyline out there for you. Oh God. Yes, okay. So those are the ladies constructing a Freedom Quilt, and we're going to see the full thing here in just a second. So there's more about this. Oh, and I'm going to post the this paper, which is just 15 pages. I mean, it's not, for a quilt nerd, it's nothing. I'll post the link to the paper, which is free to read. Thank you, University of Nebraska at Lincoln. Look at this. This is the completed Freedom Quilt. The dog is going crazy. The project culminated in this quilt, and this is it. So, yeah. Really cool. I think is that yeah, that's my last picture of that. I love this. I mean, this kind of quilt where, it's got pictorial elements in it. It's got, traditional blocks. I mean, there are pieces of this that make me think a lot about the Quilt Nerd quilt, the Quilt Nerd quilt that we're all going to make together. Like this block down here. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me just do this. This block. I really like that block. If we have any blocks in the Quilt Nerd quilt that we're going to figure out and discuss and make, if any of them have words with an exclamation point and a question mark in them, like, ugh, we're on our way. It's going to be a great quilt. It's going to be great. Yes, it is. There's a million different blocks in this. It is like they got a hold of Barbara Brackman's Encyclopedia of Pieced Quilt Patterns. Pieced quilt blocks? Quilt pattern? Yeah, there's so many things represented. I mean, it's a sampler, but it's also, sort of more deeply symbolic than that. So anyway, so this is really cool. So that is some Hungarian quilt history for you, and some Hungarian quilts to see. Hope you enjoyed them. And then, so as I was thinking about the Hungarian world of quilts, I remembered something. I remembered that there is a very, very, very famous quilter, one of the best, like ever, Mary Gasperick. Do you know of this person? Have you heard of this person? We're gonna learn about her. We're gonna take a look at some of her quilts. And this was the piece that I can't talk about Hungarian quilts and not mention Mary Gasperick. So I'm gonna show you a few quilts from the Quilt Index, the website, the sort of entries on Mary Gasperick. There are many. And I just have to show you some of these quilts. I mean, we can come back to Mary Gasperick someday. I would like to do that because she's a very interesting person. I don't want to, only do, a little bit of Mary Gasperick, but I want to do more. But I don't want to. I want to show you some quilts, but I don't have like a huge, slideshow presentation ready for you. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take advantage of the quilt index, okay? And take a look at some of these quilts, because Mary Gasperick she's a legend. She's a legend. And if you talk to a quilt nerd, who was like, you talk to somebody who was a quilt nerd and you're like, oh, I watched this show. It's called Quilt Nerd, and we talked about Hungarian quilts the other day. If that person, was like really nerdy, and they'd be like, oh, Mary Gasperick. And you'd be like, if I didn't do anything on if I didn't show you Mary Gasperick quilts, you'd be like, Mary who? And the quilt nerd you were talking to would be like, I'm sure it's a great show. Have fun with that. Okay. All right. So here is the quilt index. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, we know that quilt, the graveyard quilt. So I am going to put in Mary Gasperick, okay? And if you don't know the Quilt Index, you should. It is an initiative run by the folks at the University of Michigan. And that's a whole thing to talk about the wonderful University of Michigan and how important they are to the world of quilt studies. Interesting. Okay, yep. Okay, great. And they have it's just this repository of a whole lot of great quilt information. We should probably just do like a demo on the Quilt Index website at some point, because I think that would be pretty useful. So they have quilts by Mary Gasperick, and just that they're just so beautiful. Mary Gasperick was from Hungary, and she lived in Chicago, good old Chicago, and had just a really interesting life. So just some eye candy for you from Mary Gasperick here in just a second. Okay, Holmes says you already started on an idea for your block for the Quilt Nerd project you already started on an idea. You're putting the cart before the horse. I do it all the time. What else is there? There's a cart and then there's a horse. But what if things are circular, then the cart's always before the horse, or the horse, it's wow. Okay. And yes, indeed. We have stunning stuff tonight. Hopefully I'm communicating it well enough. And Val, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And yes, where's this stuff? Okay. The Quilt Index is a really great website. Sometimes it runs a little slow. So if that happens, it's okay. It's okay. When I search Mary Gasperick, it is not readily apparent where I click, but perhaps we can find it. This is what happens when I don't have it totally ready to go. It's okay. It's okay. Artists. Okay. Well, let's do this. You know, when I first was working on, the concept for the show, it was kind of modeled on another Twitch stream. I know a researcher who just kind of turns on the live stream camera and starts researching. And there are long periods of time where she doesn't really say much, and the chat's chatting, and she might weigh in every once in a while on something. And I was like, yeah, I think there will be just, that'll be like the show that I'll do, is that, I don't know, people will just kind of watch me, click around at times, because I'll just really be researching, and, that'll just be how it is. It'll be just very chill. No, I can't let quiet happen. Are you kidding me? So Quilt Index is not doing what I thought it would do, and that's okay. That's okay. We're all right with that. That's fine, because we're going to go to good old Google image search. You have to admit, I mean, this is kind of nice. Okay, so I'm just going to do this with Mary Gasperick, and then we're going to move on to the next chunk of content. We visited Hungary a little bit, we visited Hungary a little bit tonight in the first hour of the show. And then we're going to talk about science, but this is Mary Gasperick. Isn't this lovely? Look, and Mary is the lady here, the wonderful lady with the glasses and the happy smile, and that little girl with her. Yes, yep, it's Gasperick in quotes, right, Alistrina? That would be wise. Yeah, that's right, Gasperick. Yeah, I'll do that when we take a break in a little bit, because I gotta run and get some crisps because I'm really hungry. I will look for that, and I'll post that link in the Discord too if people want to look at Mary Gasperick quilts, because it's just like, yeah, I mean, look at that quilt. That quilt is ridiculous. Her work. Okay, so Susan Salzer, I believe I mentioned the little girl. That is her. I think it was her aunt, her great aunt. Mary Gasperick was this little girl's great aunt, I believe. But Susan has been instrumental in keeping Mary Gasperick's quilt safe and stewarded, in collections, and, having them exhibited and things. So these quilts are getting their due, hopefully. I mean, of course, no great quilter ever really gets her due, because more people should just know about these exceptional quilt makers in our midst. But Mary Gasperick is known. She is a known quilt maker. Look at that. And what I'd really like to do too, because a lot of the pictures I do know that are out there from Mary Gasperick are pretty low resolution, including the ones on the Quilt Index, many of them. And I would like to communicate with Susan, and we did a story on Mary Gasperick in the family issue of Quilt Folk magazine, issue 16. Meg Cox wrote a wonderful article about Mary Gasperick, and she communicated with Susan. And so I feel like if I communicate, to Susan what this show is, and I tell her, we'd really love to see some of these quilts, maybe she could send me really high resolution images of them, because look, I mean, you want to see them closely, don't you? In this way, I'm totally okay with not having made a big slideshow of Mary Gasperick quilts, because if we're going to look at them, let's look at them, let's look at them. Oh, look at her. Isn't she nice? Looks so sweet. Yeah, I mean, the needlework is just crazy. She was inducted into the Quilters Hall of Fame I think recently. Maybe this past year. I don't know. We got to talk about the Quilters Hall of Fame too at some point. Look at that. You can tell. I mean, look at the needlework there. You can really, really see how good. This is a quilt nerd quilt, y'all. This is what I'm talking about. When we make our quilt, pictures, fun, words, energy. Yeah? My energy is, it's up there tonight. Is that a, oh my God, is that a, that is, that's a quilt. It's a quilt. It looks like a block print or something. That is a quilt, y'all. That's crazy. Look at this. Look at this. Hang on. Hang on. We gotta look at this thing. See, I don't want to. I want more pixels. Give me more pixels. But you see? Look, the edge of the quilt is right there. It's a quilt, but it doesn't. It looks like it's like a print, right? Like a print, like a silk screen thing or some sort of printmaking. It's amazing. It's just amazing. I gotta refresh my chat. Yeah, now I really want some seriously high resolution stuff to look at Mary Gasperick, because this is crazy. Look at this one. I think she made hundreds of quilts, right? Like hundreds and hundreds. We need high res, yeah, totally. Screen print. Thank you, Molly. Exactly. Okay, so Mary. Oh, see, I can't not click on these. They're just not unclickable. Wow. Yeah, and Mary Kay Waldvogel, the great Mary Kay Waldvogel, has done a lot of research on Mary Gasperick. Look at this quilt. Look at it. Behold. Behold. Oh my gosh, look at the corners on this. Look at the corners on this quilt. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. Well, that's a post-it moment. I have a post-it moment to talk to Miss Susan Lindsay Gasperick. Okay. All right. Quilt Folk Matt. Oh yeah. Okay. Good. The Idaho issue of Quilt Folk arrived yesterday for Nosda Quilts, and the Idaho issue of Quilt Folk, which you may have seen so far, you may have seen already, or maybe not yet. That includes my article on the Boise Peace Quilt Project, which was one of the first. I mean, that was one of the streams that we did together, right? One of the early streams when people were starting to come in and we were starting to have a thing going. I talked to you all about the Boise Peace Quilt Project. In fact, I remember that stream for being kind of, I remember when I did that stream, as rudimentary as it was, and it still is, it was kind of a moment in putting this show together, which is still so new and forming, that it was one of those moments where I was like, I think this is gonna work. I think it's gonna work. Like this idea that I would show you stuff and read to you, and we would learn things together. I think it's gonna work, eventually. and yeah, I mean, I think it is working eventually. Look at this one. Wow. Yeah, see, that's 235 pixels by 335 pixels. I don't think so. I hope it arrives today too. I need to get them sent here in London. I just look at them. I look at the digital files of all the quilt folks now. It's not enough. Look at this quilt, by the way. I don't know that this is Mary Gasperick or not, but I came across it as I was looking for other things, which is exactly how things work in my life, and now exactly how things work in your life, because I'll be looking for Mary Gasperick quilts, and then I'll find something like this, and I'll have to go look for that. Well, I mean, let's look for it. What is this thing? What is this crazy quilt? It's not a crazy quilt, but you know what I mean. Okay, so this is the Why Quilts Matter website, the Kentucky Quilt Project, run by Shelley Ziegert. The Kentucky Quilt Project, Inc., okay. Shelley Ziegert is a famous quilt collector, quilt historian, a mover and shaker, if you will, in the world of quilts. The Kentucky Quilt Project was a documentation project, one of the very, very first in the country. Started in the 1980s. There was the Tennessee folks doing their quilt documentation, and there were Kentucky folks doing their quilt documentation. And there's there's a bit of a drama there, who's actually first, I think it was Tennessee. But anyway, Shelley Ziegert, very fascinating person, really amazing. And she did a documentary series, 6-part documentary series called Why Quilts Matter. Some of you may have seen it. Hey, Mark. I know, aren't they wonderful? It's so good to see you. Yes, Mary Gasperick, indeed. So I'm wondering if she made this one. Anyway, so Shelley Ziegert is, very interesting person. Just kind of a figure that looms large in the world of, quilt culture. Yeah, in the States and beyond. Here's a Mary Gasperick quilt there. Okay, and then this one. No. Okay, so this is not a Mary Gasperick quilt. This quilt came up, this heart situation here, this sort of deck of cards almost looking moment, came up in the search for Mary Gasperick because this is a quilt by Mary Gasperick, this green one, okay? So I'm searching for Mary Gasperick quilts. The algorithm leads us to this, and this is really something. So let's see if we can get a good, I'm telling you, man. If I ran the internet, high res all around. Let's just see what this says. Dorothy Nell Sanders. At least we can get a larger image right there. So let me just do some fancy footwork here, at least, and give you that image on the left. Wow. Dorothy Nell Sanders created this quilt entitled African Mask Adaptation Quilt. Interesting. In 1976. What? Using cotton, silkscreen, and fabric paint. Wow. I mean, wow. Oh, and this is from the book, a wonderful book by Questa Benberry called Always There, The African American Presence in American Quilts. If you don't have it, you should get it. Always There, The African American Presence in American Quilts. I will put the link to that in the chat. We got to talk about Questa Benberry someday. Okay, so yeah, amazing. Isn't that amazing? What a quilt. I have to know more. I have to know everything. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break. There's another Mary Gasperick quilt. I can't do this. I can't keep doing this. And I'm going to take a break, get some water, get some crisps, and we'll be back to talk about science quilts. Don't go anywhere. The show is powered by a little bit of Coke Zero and a nap. Just the way it is. It's a live show. You never know what you're going to get. But you're always going to get me. In all my multitudes. Okay, I'll be right back. Quick break. See you really soon. I hope you're entertained. Who was saying they needed to be entertained? It was, well, doesn't everybody need to be? Okay, here we go. Be right back. Okay, the mic is on. Theodore, I liked that. I love that little glowing mic. You know, and I saw the little the music note too. You know, who knows what these Twitch people are doing behind the scenes for us. Mark, welcome. I know I said it, but I'm so glad you're here. I like that mic reminder. I mean, it is actually good. I think people should feel free to use that microphone emoji whenever we take a break or when the show starts. And you could, so I was wondering about the music, if you could hear it all right, because I did turn the mic off, and one time I did that when we were listening to something and it didn't work. Anyway, hey, where's Dee Marie? Dee Marie, are you here? Saturday Night Live. It's true. Saturday Night Live. You know, yeah. Anyway, okay. The algorithm, yes, it's watching us. It always is. Sujan, welcome. I'm glad you're here, even for a moment. Mark says he will be taping his quilt tops to the floor. You have 2 of them. Very nice. Pinning them together, then quilting them. 2 quilt tops, pinning them together. Do you mean that? Hey, Chew Bamboo. I don't think I've seen you in the chat before. I'm very glad that you're here, and I am excited to see a new quilt nerd showing up to the show. I really am. I mean, I hope that you are ready to look at space and science, because that's what we're going to look at here in just a second. I mean, you're looking at a quilt. You're looking at a quilt that shows the solar system. So I'm just saying there's a lot going on here. So are you saying, Mark, that you are doing that you made 2 tops and you're going to, so you're making a quilt that has a front and a back? I mean, like an A side and a B side? I've seen this done. Pretty awesome. Is that what you mean, or am I reading that wrong? I could very well be doing that. So let me see. What if I do this, and I do this, and I do that? Interesting. Okay. So here's what's up, y'all. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about science quilts. Because how did I come across the quilt that you're looking at most recently? Double sides, Mark. You know what to do. You know you need to post pictures in the Discord. And if you are not part of the Discord yet, anyone watching now or watching the replay, we have a Discord. And I will invite you to it right now if you are lurking. I'll pull up an invite link for you now. Soon we'll have a quilt nerd specific link, but until then, I've got a link for you now. And you can post pictures of your projects, and you can continue the discussion about each episode. You can check in with people, make sure everybody's, if anybody else is up at 3 a.m. making quilts, you can chat with them. It will happen. It has already happened. Let me get an invite here. And yeah. Okay. Here's a link. Boom. That's the Discord. Okay. So I've seen this quilt many times. Okay. But I have, obviously I have a soft spot in my heart for it because it's incredible. It's like, there's no quilt like this. This quilt is amazing. And so every time I see it, I just go, ee. And I'm going to read to you about this quilt because it has a pretty cool story. Okay? So that is what is up. Whoops. Sorry. Nope. No. Come back. Come back. Here you are. Excellent. Okay. So, has anyone seen this quilt? Have you seen it before? It's actually something that gets a fair amount of exposure in the outside the quilt world because it is so unusual. And because, as I learned, when I came across this quilt again, I was like, are there other like space quilts? I guess I was kind of asking myself, and that's how it happens, right? I'm like, I see one quilt and I think, well, what does this mean for other quilts? Or, what else can I learn about, this particular genre, or what can I learn about quilts in this particular way, science or space, or, and always, I find a ton of stuff, and you're going to see that, I have, let me just say, there's Penrose quilts. Did you know that that's a thing? Do you know what that is? If you don't, you're going to find out. And I'm going to learn about that because I printed out a whole bunch of stuff, because what I like to do is I like to find a whole bunch of content, bring it together as best I can, and then learn along with you as I share, what I'm showing you. Because that's the most fun part of discovery, right? Is that I learned this thing, let me share it with you. So yeah, exactly. So this distinctive quilt started this scientific quilt journey of mine and now of ours. And this is what I can tell you about this quilt. Okay. And I'm reading to you from the Marginalian. It's a website. It used to be called Brain Pickings. Maria Popova. You should just spend days and days reading the work on this website, the Marginalia. I will, of course, put the link in the Discord. All the stuff we look at, I do my best to put links to things after the show ends. All the links go into the Discord under the episode discussion, in the episode discussion channel, because I can put them in the chat, but then the chat goes away. So this gives you a chance to look at things later. Okay. So this is from an article in the Marginalian called Stitching a Supernova, a Needlepoint Celebration of Science by Pioneering Astronomer Cecilia Payne. Myra, you know. Is it Halley's Comet? You know what? I didn't read through this, and I don't remember. So let's see. Okay. Wow. So nowhere in this strangely fertile... Oh, wait. No. Sorry. I should read the quote. The article starts with a quote. Quote, "The eye that directs a needle in the delicate meshes of embroidery will equally well bisect a star with the spider web of the micrometer." Unquote. Astronomer Maria Mitchell, who paved the way for women in science, wrote in a beautiful 1878 diary meditation on the needle as an instrument of the mind. Quote, "I am an instrument in the shape of a woman," unquote. The poet Adrienne Rich channeled Caroline Herschel a century later in her sublime ode to the world's first professional woman astronomer who spent her mornings in needlework. Really? And then there's a link. For real? Oh, yeah. Okay, wow. Okay. There's a rabbit hole and then there's a rabbit hole. Let's stick to this one. But nowhere is this strangely fertile intersection of needlepoint and astronomy more striking than in a forgotten labor of love by the English-American astronomer and astrophysicist Cecilia Payne Gaposchkin, the first person to earn a PhD in astronomy at Radcliffe, Harvard, and the first woman to chair a Harvard department. Wow, okay. That woman was born in 1900 and died in 79. Okay. And then she talks about the... Oh, wow. Okay, wow. So she talks about that. She goes on to talk about that. Hang on. I think this is a link. Hang on. I think that is a link that takes us elsewhere. Hang on one second. Okay. Sorry. All right. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So that was the little preview of needlepoint and science and quilting. Okay. Here is about the quilt. In October of 1883, a paper in the nation's capital reported under the heading Current Gossip that, quote, an Iowa woman who has spent 7 years embroidering the solar system on a quilt, unquote, a news item originally printed in Iowa and syndicated widely in newspapers across the country that autumn and winter. The New York Times reprinted the report as it appeared in the Iowa paper, dismissively qualifying it as a, quote, somewhat comical statement that a woman has spent 7 years embroidering the solar system on a quilt. There's a detail. Okay. The woman in question, Ellen Harding Baker, born in 1847, died in 1886. It's really a short life, really. Was not a person to be dismissed with a patronizing chuckle. Baker taught science in rural Iowa in an era when most institutions of higher education were still closed to women, all the while raising her 5 surviving children. She used her solar system quilt to illustrate her astronomy lectures. To ensure the accuracy of her embroidered depiction, Baker traveled to the Chicago Observatory to view sunspots and a comet, most likely the Great Comet of 1882, which had become a national attraction through the professional telescope there. Baker was born in the year Maria Mitchell, the figure who sparked the initial inspiration for Maria Popova's book Figuring. Maria Mitchell made the landmark comet discovery that earned her worldwide acclaim and established her as America's first professional female astronomer. Okay, when Baker began working on her solar system quilt, she was the same age Mitchell was when she discovered her comet, 29. The quilt, crafted long before we knew the universe contained galaxies other than our own, depicts an enormous radiant sun orbited by the planets known prior to Pluto's discovery in 1930. The quilt is made of wool, lined with cotton and wool fabric, and embroidered in silk and wool. Yeah, so pretty cool. Baker's quilt is available as an art print through this website, so I'll put the link there. So I just think that's fantastic. She was a teacher, and she used her quilt to help with her astronomy lessons. And check this out. So then I'm looking around, for more on Ellen Harding Baker. There's a book. There's a book about her. A children's book. Wow, and look at what's written here on this page. This is a page from the book. And it says, until finally it is done, and there in the corner is the comet blazing toward us. Mama gathers us close. You are my comets, she says. Whoa. That's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. So it's from the children, right? The children's voices are telling the story of their mother making this quilt. She stitched the stars. Isn't that cool? I think that's really neat. Really, really neat. Okay. And Little Bird Stitch says Penrose and fractal quilts were very popular in the early 90s. I did not know that, and now this is good because you can tell me more about it. And if you made one, I want to know. In the days of QuiltNet listserv. Oh, cool. Pretty nerdy. Pretty awesome. And Word and Bird Nerd says, my future daughter-in-law is getting a PhD in astrobiology. Oh, I'm always thinking of designs to make her a quilt. Oh my God. Okay. Well, this is for you. Prepare. From Marianne, the Royal Astronomic Society chose it as an inspiration for their bicentennial quilt. I'm not even going to click on that yet, but I'm clicking on it when I pull up the Penroses because I don't want that we're clicking. That is going to be clicked for their bicentennial. Oh, I see. Okay. And how inspirational. It is inspirational. So that's really neat. Link will go into the Discord, of course. So I'm thinking about Ellen Harding Baker and science, right? And space and stuff like that. So then I was like, well, this is a great little avenue for us to check out. Like, what else can we find? And then this quilt is just, it's magnificent, I love it so much. It's in the International Quilt Museum. And the name, I don't believe that there's a name for it, a title for it. But the maker, we do know the maker's name. It's either Brubaker or Habecker. Okay. And possibly because that name is stitched, somewhere in the quilt. But that's in the record for the Quilt Museum. It says Brubaker or Habecker, and it was made in 1892. And you can see the date there, right there. This quilt, 1892. This might be one of my favorite quilts of all time. It might be one of my favorite quilts of all time. It's impossible, right? It's impossible. Look at the feathers here. Those are amazing. Those are just absolutely stunning. And look at the feather in the border. Crazy. Crazy, crazy. But then there's this really, really abstract, to me, sort of unusual quilt, quilting pattern. It's just it's so meandering. It looks like long arming, right? Today, that kind of meandering loopy thing is common, but I don't really notice that kind of quilt making or quilting in quilts from 1892. It's just not really a thing, Hey, Quilt Tops by Ivana. It's your first time chatting. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for coming. I gotta say, it's kind of a weird show. I don't know. My energy is so high just because it just is. I took a nap. I drank a Coke. I'm excited. My computer can't keep up, is what I'm trying to say. But I'm doing my best. I'm really glad you're here. And Alistrina says it's interesting that there is a square of straight diagonal lines. Yes, thank you. That was my next note on this quilt. What is this about? It's almost as though there was a different quilt here, or it was replaced somehow. This is totally incongruous, Alistrina. I'm seeing it as well. Hey, Faith. Oh man. Oh. I'm glad you're here. That's not fun. Believe me. I know all about fun stuff in that regard. I'm really glad you're here. So, so we're looking at this crazy, beautiful quilt, and this is just a really interesting part of it. Now, and there's also these creases, right? These creases in the quilt, folding, obviously, is something that quilts have to endure, being folded and put into a cedar chest or put into a cupboard or a box. When you fold a quilt, and it stays that way for a really long time, it's not so great for the quilt because the batting can sort of separate, in the fold. The creases can just stay forever. You can't really get a really bad crease out of a quilt. As far as I know, you can do a little bit, but especially on an old quilt, what are you going to steam it to death? I don't think so. Hey, Niflinster. Hi. That's really funny. Niflinster says, tip to Faith, don't order anything from the internet for at least 24 hours. Word for the wise. Because of the stuff they gave you to kind of put you out a little bit. Is that why? I figure that's probably why. But I'm really, really glad. Hey, Ivana! I became addicted to your YouTube and had to join you. You're simply amazing. Ugh, thank you. I needed that, and I appreciate it. Well, I'm so glad you're here. That's fantastic. And not just because you said nice things. It's special. It's a special place to be. And I hope you're feeling better. And Holmes says you saw the coolest space quilt on Reddit, inspired by the NASA JPL Voyager poster. Look for the link. You must look for the link and put it in the chat so I can click on it too. Got Marianne's link and that I would love to show. Okay, great. Oh, you got it. Okay, awesome. And you ordered a silver lace dirndl skirt. Who are you? You're very funny. You're very funny, interesting people, obviously. This is not news, but things like that. Ordering a silver lace dirndl skirt, whether you're recovering from a procedure or not. It's just, if you do that, you're okay by me. Marianne has a tip. Quilt folding. Do it good side out. Yes, so the creases don't cast shadows when you're unfolded, when the quilt is unfolded. That is a good tip. Pretty side out. And another tip is to, if you can, and not everyone can, most people, I don't know. If you have a second bedroom or you have a second bed of some kind or a big table in your house, a quilt is best laid flat. If you can put all your quilts on a second bed in your house that you're not using, that's the best place for them. Covered up, so they won't be faded by the sun coming in a window. But the best place for a quilt is on a bed. I think Liz Porter told me that. I don't know. I can't remember. But that's the best place. But fading, the sunlight will kill a quilt quicker than anything else. It will just ruin things because it fades. The cotton fabric will fade so quickly. Silk, wool, all of it. So keep it out of the sun. But also someone told me, I think Mom told me, if you're going to fold your quilts. Oh no, Martha Stewart told me this. I remember Martha Stewart said, when you're storing your quilts, take them out. If you have to fold them, refold them like a couple times a year. Just like put an alarm in your phone or put a notification in your calendar or whatever to refold the quilts and fold them in a different way, to at least keep the creasing changing long enough, so it won't be quite so bad. And my mom did tell me that putting a quilt, in a cedar chest or in a, hope chest kind of thing sounds nice. Seems like the place a quilt should go, but the oils from the wood, and maybe little critters, if they get in there, that's not so great. So really, Tupperware bins, it's not as fun. But that's an inert material would be better to store your quilts in than an organic material. But acid-free tissue paper also in between the layers of the quilt is good. And certainly if you've got a quilt in a wooden vessel, wrap them up, man. Because the oils from the wood and the quilts are organic. They're organic substances, materials. They're made of organic materials. I suppose everything is kind of organic, but you know what I'm saying. It deteriorates, it fades, it can be chewed to bits, by little vermin. So some tips for you there on storing your quilts. Okay, good. Oh God, these links are great. And change your smoke detector batteries. That's a very, very good tip, actually. I'm going to try to remember that whenever anybody asks me about storing quilts. That's really great. Whenever anybody asks me about storing quilts, I'm going to say that a friend told me one of the most important things that you can do to protect your quilts is to make sure your smoke alarm battery has been changed, that your smoke detectors are in good working order. It's brilliant. It's really, really good. It's really good. Really good. Yes, Pam Priest, I'm telling you, lay them all on that bed. It's the best place for them. And it's funny that Mr. Cargo came up. Remember when I talked about Robert and Helen Cargo's collection? This person I was talking to, a different person actually, said they were talking about collecting quilts and said that, quilt collecting is really kind of a pain, because you have to put them somewhere. And yeah, the best place is, on a bed, laid out on a bed and covered all nicely and maybe turned, every once in a while. And that takes a lot of space, and quilts are often large, and most of them, if you have more than a few of them, they're really heavy. It's a heavy, and they are biodegradable and all of that. So to collect quilts is really kind of a lot, if you have stacks and stacks and stacks of quilts that you need to keep refolding or, repapering or whatever. It's not collecting thimbles. You could collect thimbles and have less work to do. Interesting. Museums refold on a schedule with crumpled tissue, acid-free tissue. See? Martha was right. Listen to Mary. Don't listen to me. Just listen to me sometimes. Like 20% of the time, listen fully, just give me all your attention. The rest of the time, it's up to you. You gotta, Pam Priest is going upstairs to lay them all out right after the show. I think it's a good idea. You heard it here first. Okay, so that's a wonderful quilt. Okay, so then there's this. Is this a science quilt specifically? No. Is it one of the most beautiful quilts I've ever seen in my life? Yes. I mean, I'm just gonna let you look at that. I'm gonna just while I get my paper, okay? Okay. This quilt is called Dawn. D-A-W-N, okay? Dawn. And then in parentheses, left Illinois for California, April 15th, 1859. So Dawn left Illinois for California, April 15th, 1859. It's by Anna von Mertens, and it was made in 2007. And it is part of the collection is at the Quilt Museum in Lincoln, Nebraska, the International Quilt Museum, okay? Which, once again, if you have never donated to that museum, I really hope that you can do that at some point when it makes sense for you. So many of the quilts that we look at on this show come from the Quilt Museum. That rainbow quilt, that's at the Quilt Museum. This masterpiece is at the Quilt Museum. You know, they're doing the work that we all want them to do, which is keep these quilts safe. Here's what Anna von Mertens says about this quilt, okay? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a really good question. Alistair, and I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to come back to that. Yeah, it's made, this quilt was made in 2007, but the title is referencing this journey, this pioneer journey, I suppose, in 1859. Okay. So Anna says, so this is from the Quilt Museum website. Artist Anna von Mertens used research detailing the position of stars in the night sky to create Dawn, left Illinois for California, April 15th, 1859. According to von Mertens' website, the title for this originated from a 19th century quilt inscription. The Heslep and Shuey families noted the date and occasion as they embarked on their 3-month journey to California from their homes in Hamilton, Illinois. In her artist statement, von Mertens says, quote, "I'm exploring the rift between past and future, portraying events. I use the stitch to follow these trails, tracing the paths with my fingers. The dotted line of hand stitching is a marker of uncertainty, a way of exploring. The time invested in making the work, allowing for contemplation and internalizing, becomes a part of how the work is viewed. I see all of these elements as a form of mapping, reflecting the need to get my own bearings in this vast universe." Unquote. So when I did an exhibit, or a virtual tour of the Quilt Museum holdings for QuiltCon this year, QuiltCon Together Zoom experience that was QuiltCon, I did a tour called Showstoppers, and this quilt was in my Showstoppers exhibit because it just is. So then I was like, well, still on this kind of science tip, wondering if she had any other quilts that were similar, or I think I probably just looked her up, right? Anna von Mertens. Oh, yay! Val is back because you can't log into the work system. Sounds like it's out of your hands. I'm glad you're back because check this out. Okay. So this is also by Anna von Mertens. You see the science theme? I don't know. I mean, I haven't read this part yet. You know, this little article I pulled up about her. It's from Wired magazine from 2014. And the title of it is The Art of Sewing Science into Beautiful Quilts. Anna von Mertens is an artist who explores humanity's highs and lows. And while needle, thread, and fabric are her medium, she typically uses science as a lens because there's usually some scientific phenomena that helps her translate how she feels about an event or subject. I mean, is that cool or what? That's so amazing, right? So here's the article by Nick Stockton. 13 years ago, when American Airlines Flight 11 collided... Oh, sorry. So this was written in 2014. So 20 years ago, right? When American Airlines Flight 11 collided with the North Tower of the World Trade Center, no one could see the stars. But the stars were there, and the pattern above is what they would have looked like rotating behind the daylight, smoke, and fire. So this is the image you're seeing. Anna von Mertens stitched this piece shortly after the attacks as a way to come to grips with what had happened. Quote, I had this background in mapping, and the most existential form of mapping is looking up at the stars and knowing where we fit in the giant puzzle of things, she said. Unquote. A friend showed her some software that modeled the stars from any time and place on Earth, and she set about memorializing 9/11. I haven't read this, right? I saw it. I was like, okay, great. Got the pictures from the article. I'm like, this is amazing. We're doing this. Okay. It's amazing, right? Amazing. And we just had our anniversary. Amazing. The September 11th piece was part of a series of time-lapse stars over a series of American tragedies. Whoa. She's also knitted tree rings to examine drought and empires. Yeah, amazing, right? A nuclear blast to represent the media's lack of subtlety in politics. Huh. And a black hole to describe her relationship to the East Coast, among other works. So von Mertens started her art career in more traditional mediums. There's a really good close-up of that piece. She was doing painting and illustration and making quilts in her free time. Eventually, she saw quilting as a better way to represent her ideas. She approaches each piece methodically. And by the way, I just want to say, like, look at, there's a relationship here. Isn't that cool? Isn't that just totally awesome? The solar system quilt and the, Ellen Baker Harding or Harding Baker's solar system quilt in this is just great. She saw quilting as a better way to represent her ideas. She approaches each piece methodically, beginning with intense research into her topic. She doesn't start out seeking a scientific angle, but usually finds science offers a compelling tableau. Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson. He would love this. Someone should make him a quilt. Or he should make his own. How about that? She designs her first patterns on the computer, sometimes drafting them from scratch. Once that's complete, she uses a projector to draw the pattern onto the fabric. I transfer each line by hand with chalk. Quote. I transfer each line by hand with chalk. I chalk out my stitch pattern onto the piece. If the piece happens to include color, I hand dye it too, which for sure, we see that right here, right? Hand dyeing. I mean, but like, really? Wow. It's just crazy. I mean, I think that's hand dyed. I don't know for sure, but like, looks like it probably is. During the long weeks she spends stitching, she tries to immerse herself in the topic of her work. Recently, the scientific aspect of her work has gotten notice within the physics community. Wow, look at that one. What? That is just really something, isn't it? She was asked to join a panel on artistic interpretations of science as part of the Cosmo 2014 Physics Conference at the University of Chicago. She was nervous, she said, to present her work in front of physicists because she felt pressure to get the information correct. But she says the physicists were interested and receptive to her work, and after the meeting, she laughed at her nervousness. Quote, "Artists and scientists are not that different. We're in our own little worlds, grinding away at ideas." Okay. So here's just a few more images of hers. This is more of her work, I should say. Anna von Mertens. Pretty cool. Yeah, look. Okay, and this is all from that Wired article that I will post the link to. Can't see too well. I mean, the black one you can see. Let's see if I've got... If I can... Yeah. Let me see if I've got a caption on that picture that will tell us a little bit more. Okay. Yeah, okay, here we go. So black and white, okay, this is a piece together, that they're together. The stitching on these quilts show different views of a nuclear bomb blast. The black is a side view while the white is from the top. Wow. Yeah, and then this one is a detail of the energy pattern from a nuclear explosion. Wow, that's really crazy. And then this is called East-West. Von Mertens sometimes uses scientific phenomena to explore her own relationship to places or events. In West, she stitched the Big Bang over sunset colors to represent California's vivid energy. The pattern on East, the quilt here, uses a black hole to represent introversion. So interesting, isn't it? Isn't that, it's crazy. And I had seen that quilt, Dawn, leaving Illinois for, the quilt Dawn that we just looked at, the hand-dyed beauty. I'd seen it a lot, but I'd never actually looked into her. And I love that I get to do that with you. It's really, really fun to look at the person behind that work, And then this one is, what does this one say? Do I have that? Yeah. This is Gray Area / Ocean Currents. Okay, that's the title of the work. Gray Area / Ocean Currents. The caption says, all of Von Mertens' quilts are hand-stitched and hand-dyed. The pattern on this piece depicts the corkscrew feature of oceanic currents called the Ekman spiral. Wow. There's one thing that I didn't do. Wow. Okay. All right. So is that? Oh yeah. And then this one. There's one more. So this is Von Mertens develops her patterns using computer software, traces them onto the fabric using chalk, as we said, and then spend weeks to months hand stitching them. Here is the computer detail. Okay, the computer detail for the Ekman spiral stitch. So that's her plan, her little blueprint there. Amazing. Okay. All right. So this is the Penrose quilt, okay? And I have information on this. And who said, oh wait, no, we have to go, hang on. I have to get some of these links. So Reddit, Homesmaker has a Reddit link, and Marianne. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. This is great. Oh yeah. Okay, got it. The Royal Astronomical Society. So the solar system quilt, the one we looked at the beginning, Ellen Baker Harding, the link Marianne put up there is from the Royal Astronomical Society, an inspiration for the bicentennial quilt. That is really cool. Do they have the bicentennial quilt? Wait a minute, let me see. Okay, I will see if they have done the bicentennial quilt since then, because I think this article came out in 2020, right? Anyway, that's great. I would love to see the quilt that they made. If you have it or you know where you can find it, let me know. And then this is really cool. This is really cool. Can I bring this up here? Okay, here. I'm going to do this. So Holmes, what is this? This is a really neat, very, very salient salient quilt for us right now. So the space travel quilt, Holmes put this up here. And let's see. The coolest space quilt on Reddit. Okay, inspired by the NASA/JPL Voyager poster. JPL? Why am I'm blanking on what that is. JPL. That is really awesome. So let's see what Reddit has to say. The space travel quilt I made based on the JPL's Voyager. JPLS Voyager. The Grand Tour poster. The quilting took me about as long as a trip to Mars would have. That's what the poster said about this quilt. And this was posted 1 month ago. Rye Brady. I want to click on this person. What is she up to? This is fantastic. Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I want to follow her on Reddit. I'll put the link in the Discord. Interesting. Yeah, there's a quilting Reddit. Of course there's a quilting, what is it? Not sub channel. What is it? My Reddit like skills are sort of rudimentary because I just don't use Reddit that much, but I will now. Like, I'm definitely going to be like up in the Reddit quilting channels. Reddit. Because I bet there's a ton of stuff there, right? There's a lot of stuff going on there. Okay. So, Penrose. Let's just do this. Is this one? I think so. Okay, good. Subreddit. Thank you. Thank you. Sub-channel, subreddit. This is this Penrose quilt. Jet Propulsion Lab. Okay. Oh, and Alistrina asked a really good question that I wanted to come back to. About the time change, right? Because we fell back here in Britain, in the UK, yesterday. This is a question for Marianne. This show has been going on at 5 p.m. for you and for me since it started. That's going to stay the same. Does that change? Or it can stay the same. I would rather change my time that I go on. I would rather change for me than change for everybody else. So, does the time change mean that like you and I meet here, at 4 or at 6? I'm not sure, but I could really use your help on the math because I don't want to make... Okay. Marianne says, oh, thank God you're still here. GMT is 1 hour out of sync. It will go back to normal 5 hours due to... Oh, man. What is this, a Penrose thing? So what do you think? What does that mean? What does that mean? 1 hour out of sync. It will go back to normal in 5 hours? Oh, that's right, for 1 week. Right. Okay, right, that's right. So here's what I can tell you. I will keep the time. Let me just we'll work out after Sunday. Okay. Thanks, Carol, and thank you, Marianne. It'll work out after Sunday. So, when I post the time for the show in the Twitch schedule, it posts in your local time zone. So if I posted it, if the show is at 5 p.m. for me, it will be whatever the time it is for you. It will do that math. So you can follow the Twitch schedule for sure. Yeah. Okay. Exactly. Yeah. Next week, our 5 p.m. will be noon in Eastern time. Okay. It's interesting. I mean, I could. Is it worth it to... I think I'll adjust my schedule so it's still 11 a.m. I think I will. I'm going to adjust the schedule so that it's still 11 a.m. Central. It's important. So I will figure it out. Marianne, you will help me. And it'll still be at 11 a.m. I'll figure it out because that needs to be consistent. So for the UK people, you're the folks who kind of need to keep your eye out for a different time. Okay. All right. So this is a Penrose quilt, and the Penrose Quilt Challenge. This is something I found, and this makes sense, right? That it would be. Let's see. Wait. When is this? When is it? Well. Okay. So I'm gonna read what this has to say. Someone was mentioning, long ago in the early Quilternet, there was quilt challenges and things that people would do with the Penrose tiling, the Penrose tiles, making them into quilts and doing patchwork in this style and so forth. So let's read what this even means, okay? So this is from domesticat.net, and it's called. This is an article I printed off so I could read it easily from this paper and show you a couple examples of this. It is from, I don't know what year this is from. I might be able to pull it out here. But a Penrose Quilt Challenge. If you're here, you're probably considering making a quilt from a Penrose tiling. The blog post says, congrats. What's a Penrose tiling? And of course, we're talking about this because this science sort of math, rabbit hole I went down when I was looking at quilts the other day. What's a Penrose tiling? And a periodic tiling, I'm going to put that in the chat, aperiodic. An aperiodic tiling, first written about by Sir Roger Penrose in the 1970s. Okay, that is a Penrose tiling. Quilting, for the most part, celebrates periodic tilings, patterns with a regular repeat. Aperiodic tilings start from a central point, but never repeat, not completely. As they grow outward, they fracture and split and form aesthetically satisfying patterns that never fully repeat, but have radial symmetry from that central point. Penrose tilings have 5-fold symmetry, meaning, okay, I'm good staying on my own time. Okay, good. Penrose tilings have 5-fold symmetry, meaning you can draw 5 lines out from the central point, and each section will be the same. Okay, so what does this mean? Hang on. I'm going to show you just more of these kind of things. So technically, there are 2 versions of the tiling, the sun and star tiling. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, you can look at some of her sketches and things. So I just want to go back to, it's an aperiodic tiling. Starts from a central point, okay, but never repeat completely. As they grow outward, they fracture and split and form aesthetically satisfying patterns that never fully repeat, but have radial symmetry from that central point. I mean, this is crazy. So, I mean, when we look at how quilts go together, this is sort of like a new, like 2.0 of that. Woof. So this is the central point here, I think. I think that's what it means. And there's another one too. Hang on. So this person says it's a Penrose quilt challenge, and these quilts are not from this blog post. They're just different Penrose quilts that I pulled from the internets. Someone says, that looks hard. Why should I try it? And the person who's writing this says, because it is hard and because it's beautiful. Could there be better reasons? And she says, if you're not daunted by English paper piecing or sewing hexagons with their small individual seams, you can do a tiling quilt. The problems are similar. The difference is that you'll need to choose which version of the tiling and which sections of it you want to do. And that's some of the sketches she has in this post, which I'll link to. Aperiodic tilings grow outward forever. So you have to decide where to cut off the pattern and how you want to center it. This will be your design project from start to finish. When you're done, it's very likely there will never be another quilt just like it, ever. If that last sentence makes your toes curl just a little, this project is for you. Aha. Marianne says their shape means you always have to end with a half a block plus seam allowance. Fiendish. Yeah, and my mom would say just make a full block and then cut it. As painful as it may be, it's easier than doing like a half a block plus a seam allowance, you know. She's like, just cut it apart. Yeah, and then there's, I don't know if that's a Penrose or not, but it's certainly sort of mathematically impossible, it seems like. Okay, so there are a few more science-y like things to show you, but because I have to do a couple things since I've been out of town, I'm gonna close up shop for tonight. We've been on for a couple hours. So tonight we talked about Hungarian quilts. We talked about this blue and white fabric that has this historical relationship, right, with Hungary. And we looked at some beautiful quilts from the Hungarian Patchwork Guild, which is very interesting. You know, after the 1980s, you know, the Hungarian patchwork tradition started. So like it's still growing and changing. And I noticed when I was looking at Hungarian quilt, you know, history, there wasn't much of it, right? But there was, at least for a time, a Hungarian modern quilt guild. And I should see, you know, if they're still around, right? And if so, like what they're up to. I did go to an Instagram page for them, and there wasn't much there, but that doesn't mean that they're not active. I also wanted to show you one thing. I went to Etsy to see if there was Hungarian fabric available, and when I was in Budapest recently, as of like yesterday and the past 4 days, 5 days almost. I looked for it, you know, there was one textile shop that was open Monday, I believe was a holiday for them. And so some things were closed. So I looked for this white and blue fabric and I didn't see any. I didn't spend all day looking for it, but you know, of course you can find things online. And when I searched Hungarian fabric on Etsy, these are the results that came up. And of course, some things are embroideries, and some things are, you know, not fabric at all. But it's interesting. So this is traditional Hungarian, Bavarian, Austrian blue dyeing folklore fabric. They're really, you know, casting a wide net. But it does absolutely look like sort of got that style, right? The indigo with the white resist kind of fabric. It's really beautiful. And it's not, though. I mean, this is the traditional looking, I think. I mean, right? That's not actually... Well, I don't know. It looks kind of... It's hard to tell. Nah, I don't know. You'd have to ask, but it seems like it's maybe just a, you know, printed fabric that's blue and white, maybe. I don't know. I love this dark ground with those flowers, really beautiful. And what else do we have here? So this, I think this is sort of like a embroidery print fabric. I mean, obviously it's got this blue and white. It's sold by the meter, and yeah, that's like a, not cotton obviously, or not a quilter's weight cotton, but really pretty. And then let's just see if they've got any more of the shop owner's name, Magyar, means Hungary. Well, that's cool. With that first hit. Oh, look at this. Traditional, oh yeah, look, okay. Traditional Hungarian handmade blue dyeing fabric. Oh, that's pretty. Yeah, interesting. So there, you know, you can find this stuff if you were inspired by the blue and white quilts from Hungary. Maybe getting some traditional, you know, blue and white fabric, put the name in there at one point in our chat, would be something that would interest you. So anyway, the trip to Hungary was really interesting. It gave me an opportunity to check out Hungarian quilt traditions, which are still forming. They're just barely 30 years old, and that's pretty exciting. And that paper that I read to you from about the Hungarian quilt, peace quilt, has a lot of interesting information in there. So we looked at that, and then we took a look at the solar system quilt, and Ellen Baker Harding. Science, man, science. And it's really, really good to be back in London. It was interesting how we got on the plane this morning. And I got up at, I didn't mention, like 4. I think we left the hotel at like 4:45. And we got on the plane, and when the plane landed, we weren't in the United States. It's like home is London, at least right now. And so it was an odd sensation to be in a foreign country and then leave the foreign country and arrive in the place where we, came from, and it's London. It was unusual. I'd never had that experience before, because our trip to Budapest was the first trip we've taken outside of the United Kingdom, outside of England, since all of this London adventure thing began last year. So it was really, really cool. I'm very grateful. I got to see my family. It was so fun. Being with Mom the other night was a blast. And it feels good to be back. So tomorrow, I'll be back to my regular groove. And there's a lot more to tell you tomorrow. And I've got a stack of books, that I keep wanting to bring into the stream, but we get going and we just sort of go and we look at stuff. We look at quilts together, and I'll get to them eventually. It's wonderful to see you all. Thank you for coming to me on an off night, on a Wednesday night. And for anybody watching the replay, thank you so much for watching. And for those of you who are new in the chat or new to the show, I'm so glad you came. It's different every single time. And I know that it's the best part of my week every single time. However the show goes, it's like, I don't know, I learn something new pretty much minute to minute. So I'm really grateful for you for being here. And I hope that you will join me again and join all the quilt nerds here on Quilt Nerd. Wow, that was like an ending to a show where then I would then play music, to lead me out of the show, but I don't have that yet. So now I just hit in stream.